A very good morning, students. Today we are going to see unit number 1 of software design and modeling. The name of the unit is Object Oriented Methodologies of UML. These are the contents: view of the software development, then some of the object oriented methodologies, unified approaches, and unified modeling language. The very first point, view of the software development. Traditional system development methodology and object-oriented analysis and design, its importance we can see. System development has both traditional as well as object-oriented approach. Now, this traditional system development methodologies consist of waterfall model, spiral model, etc. Software development methodologies play a very important role in development of software. It is a framework that is used for structuring, planning, and executing the process of software development. Now, see, this is the traditional system development methodology and object-oriented analysis and design methodology. This is the comparison actually. In traditional approach, system is built using collection of function, and in object-oriented approach, system is built using collection of objects and methods. The second difference is this traditional approach focuses on functions and procedures, different styles and methodologies for each step of process. And is object-oriented approach, it focuses on object, classes, modules that can be easily replaced, modified, and reused. Traditional approach increases complexity of software development, and your object-oriented approach, it decreases the complexity of software development. Finally, the traditional approach, it increases the time of project completion, and your object-oriented approach is decreases the time of software development. Now, this is the slide for importance of object orientation. Here are some points which are focusing on how importance the object-oriented concept in software design and modeling. Larger problem domains can be broken into smaller manageable modules due to object orientation. Now, due to the modularity of the object, modules or classes can be easily replaced and modified. Object orientation gives the importance to data or functions and support data heading, which is called as encapsulation. Now, object oriented technology, it is used for developing models. It supports concepts like objects, class, messages, inheritance, and polymorphism. Object-oriented models are easily communicate, change, expand, validation, and verification. Object-oriented model is not only limited as a theoretical concept, but a well-proven technology used in development of many projects. This system that aggregate a development process and modeling language with proper construction technology and tools. UML perfectly complement the object-oriented development concept as it is based on object orientation. Now, here are some of the object orientation methodologies. Over 50 or more than 50 methods and modeling languages appeared during 1994. A single language or method which is popular is the object-oriented language or unified modeling language. Now, few languages and their popularity in the mid-90s. These are Butch, object-oriented SE, OMT2, and Fusion. Now, the object-oriented design, this approach by Butch. Now, Butch is a scientist. He proposed to give focus on design and construction phases of the project. He also defined that a system can be analyzed as number of views and each view can discuss by number of model diagrams. Means for a system number of views can be developed and every view may have different number of model diagrams. This Butch method was strong enough to analyze the system at macro and micro development level view. There are certain issues about requirement analysis, but the method was strong in its architecture. So this is all about the Butch method. Next is your Rambach technique. Now this Rambach technique was developed by James Rambach and it is given focus on performing tests based on requirement specification. The complete system is described by a number of models such as object-oriented dynamic model and functional model. Object modeling technique also consists of practical instructions for designing the system. Now, this object-oriented analysis and design code, you are done. It is the first method to be used in object-oriented analysis and design. Benefit of this method was its simplicity and ease of learning and understanding the concept of object orientation technology for beginners. This method was not scaled well with many systems. Now next point is object-oriented software engineering, that is the OOSE by Ivar Jacobson. Now this Ivar Jacobson is also a scientist who has given his concept for modeling and designing. It was developed by Ivar Jacobson on his own vision of object-oriented method. This method was based upon use cases which then implemented in all phases of development. Next is your unified approach. The unified software development process in the software engineering process, which is commonly called as unified process or UP. UML project provides both visual language and software engineering process. UML has been standardized by OMG, that is the Object Management Group, in the unified process has not. And so the unified process is pragmatic and tested method for developing software. Next point is object-oriented analysis. Now in this object-oriented analysis phase of software development, the system requirements are determined, class and relationships among them is identified. There are three different techniques of object-oriented analysis. First is object modeling, second dynamic modeling, and third is functional modeling. Now you can see the very first method, object modeling. In this phase, objects are identified and grouped together as a class. Second, the relationship between the class and links among the objects are identified. It also identifies attributes and methods of the class, and it defines user object attribute, and it develops the static structure of the system in terms of object. The second is dynamic modeling. The objective of dynamic modeling is to examine the behavior with respect to time and external changes. It is the way of describing how object responds to different events. It identifies state of each object. It finds events and it develops state transition diagram. So many UML diagrams are there. Out of that state transition diagram, it is under dynamic modeling. And the last one is the functional modeling. Now this functional modeling shows the processes that are carried out within the object and change in the data as it is moved among methods. It also specifies the meaning of operation from the object modeling, and it constructs the data flow diagram showing functional dependency. So the data flow diagram, it comes under the functional modeling. Now there are some advantages of this. First is the focuses on data rather than the procedure. Second, it supports the encapsulation. Third is it manages the software complexity effectively due to its modularity. And the last is upgradation is easier. And it has also some hurdles or limitations. The very first limitation is it is restricted to objects only. So problem for those systems which are procedural in nature, this method cannot be used. And second, all the interfaces cannot be prepared in a single diagram. So we need different diagrams for showing different interfaces. Next is object-oriented design. Now it is a technical expansion and adaptation of the output of analysis phase. Now here the classes, the relationship, collaboration from the analysis phase are complemented within new elements. This object-oriented design focuses on how to implement the system. All the details of how things should be worked technically and the constraint of the implementation environment are taken into consideration. Now this design method, it is the result of analysis phase carried out over design, and design phase gives technical solution to the problem captured during the analysis phase. Now some activities are carried out in the following, that you can see here. Architectural design introduces your design implements to support technical issue. Model partition divides the analysis class into functional packages, new package for technical areas such as user interface, database, and handling of communication. So this is object oriented design.